Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Patterson with The Real Share. We're doing our daily huddle today. And today's going to be another awesome day. It's the first time that I had such a good time the day before that I said, I don't want this to end. I want my conversation to continue in a part two. And that would be with Dr. Richard Shuster. I'm thrilled because not only is he just a superstar, rock star, genius, he's also one of my close friends. I consider him in that Fab Five. Even though he only came in the last year, it was a very significant year. And what we have been putting together is nothing short of crowdsourcing miracles. So, Dr. Richard, thank you for coming on this second day with me.
This is a trend-setting experience, I think. So 2 days in a row. This is pretty exciting. I put on a new shirt for you, so this is going to be a lot of fun. I hope that we help a lot of people, and just really excited to just keep an amazing conversation rolling for another good hour.
One comment that I heard, it was like a week and a half ago, and I watched Elon Musk and Joe Rogan on Joe Rogan's Experience, and something that Elon Musk said, and he said, I'm giving away, forgot the number, but it was like something outrageous, like 80% of his belongings. And he wanted to focus all his energy on doing his passion and what he loved. And that was, or is, getting to Mars and getting, in his space shuttle. And I thought that so speaks to me, because I want to be hanging out with the people that I feel we can come together in our geniuses and be so effective that we just start checking the list off and we start 10xing ourselves. So when he said that, you know who I thought of? You.
Well, that's high praise indeed. And if Elon gets to Mars, I would not mind hitching a ride. That would be pretty damn cool.
But I think isn't that the coolest thing? Like, think about that comment. It was just like, you know what? We're really better together. And where do I want to extend energy? The stuff that lifts me up. So yesterday, when we were on the call, I was like, you know what? I would love to spend that hour with Richard and just being in our genius and doing our essence and what we do. And that's how you and I have been showing up together, so much so that we've created this 3-step approach to having the real share and truly bringing 100% joy into your life. And I told you this, I said, it's so hard to do. It's actually a lot harder than what people really give it credit for. Bringing 100% joy. Like, when I say that to you, Richard, what does that mean to you?
It's funny because I want to answer it, but before I answer it, I want to say something that I thought about, because when you say bringing 100% joy, a mentor of mine once issued 100% positivity challenge, meaning that you can't have any negative thoughts in one day.
Okay, let's do that as our first challenge.
Yep. Okay, I'm down. Because that is hard.
It's hard.
It's very hard. So, joy to me depends on the day, but it looks something like I'm probably playing with my kids, cooking something crazy on my big green egg, spending the evening with my wife. It's family, it's time. And what I've really learned as an entrepreneur is that over time I've come to value time. I'm using time too many words in a sentence, but I value time more than I value money. And nobody dies saying, God, I wish I worked more hours, right? It's, I wish I had more experiences. I wish I took that trip to Europe that I always said I will do it next year. I'll do it next year. And so I think to kind of dovetail on some of our conversation from yesterday, why you and I had this, awesome connection from go is because we both were on the brink of death and recognize, that literally life is full of these gifts. And, if everybody watching this were to have this thought, say you've got 30 days left to live, 30 days. So climbing a corporate ladder doesn't matter anymore. How would you want to spend it? Would you want to spend it wallowing in misery and that the world has struck you down, or would you create that bucket list and then drive with incredible energy and passion to start knocking some of those things off you always said you'd do, but you never did. You never found the time to do. And it's interesting, right? If we bring a little bit of that into our perspective, it makes things so much more clear. It's like, it's like that Claritin commercial where they take the Claritin and it takes that haze away. It's like, kind of cloudy, and then they can see everything clearly after they have their Claritin. And I have no professional affiliation with Claritin, but I mean, it's a good analogy, right? Because like, what would you say to your sons and daughters? What would you say to your parents? What would you say to your brothers and sisters if you knew your time left was 30 days, right?
Yeah.
And so,
well, I don't know about 30. I do know.
You know about 90.
90.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what the coolest thing is. And I just learned this actually 2 weeks ago. And I talked to you about this just privately offline. And this whole concept about free will. I lost my business partner and from a heart attack. And he was the one that I was telling you about that we were doing the whole Dr. Joe Dispenza event. And we had talked a lot about how thin the veil is. And I really do believe that we co-create with God, that we get to decide what we want this life to look like. Do we want it to be filled with struggle, or do we want it to be filled with joy? And what I believe all of us are supposed to have, and that is this harmony with the relationships that we have on this planet energetically.
Well, I said this at the end of the last show, that I feel like metaphysics is just science that we don't yet have the technology to explain. But it is interesting that quantum physicists and people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who are respected, these are not tinfoil hat wearing people who are mocked by the scientific community. These are people that are respected. And Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about that energy. He talks about the morphic field and that we attract into our lives experiences and people, and we can energetically create down to a molecular level, a quantum level, the perfect life for us. Again, today was another 13-hour day for me. My tank is full. I'm having fun. I know yours is. It's about what we choose to create. But a lot of it is also having the courage to create it and having the people around us to say, I got you. You have that. I have that. I'm grateful that you're part of that team for me, as I am for you. But a lot of people who are finding the real share for the first time, this may be new. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but it is so important that when you feel something in your belly, that fire in your belly, like this is something that you have to do, you will regret it for the rest of your life if you don't try.
So I'm to the point now where I have that feeling come up and it makes me want to cry because it's so overwhelming. And it's just like this, it's like screaming to just get out of my body. Like I have to do this. And it's almost, it catches me off guard because I am such a passionate person and I do work with so much intention, but how not only are the pieces coming together at a rapid rate, but I'm also being introduced to the individuals that will make the pieces come together at a rapid rate.
Again, like Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about, things are pulled into your world when you're ready for them and when you needed them. And you and I were pulled into each other's world because we're fulfilling a very specific need that we don't have otherwise. And here it is, right? And so what I will say, just from experience, and this isn't a scientific study, this is just, an N of one, just me. When I started my podcast and I decided to take the leap and go for that. And then when I went all in with everything, I started having serendipitous moments like on overdrive. Like probably that first month I started my podcast, I had more serendipitous moments than like my whole life. like we all can think of these moments where something really, like we call it a sign or whatever it is. Like literally once I started doing that, it was happening with such frequency to where I was saying, okay, like this is not an accident. Like I'm supposed to be doing this. And the more that I bought into that and believe that, because I'm still a scientist, right? So, like I'll think about somebody that I'd really like to have on my show, and then they pop up in my inbox. Hey, I'd like to come on your show. Like that's the stuff that started happening. And so, it was proof positive for me that there's absolutely something to this. And once I really started combining intentionality, putting things on paper with really intense visualization, that also kind of took things to another level. And so, there's a ton of fun science around that too. We've got a little something in our brain called the activation system, reticular activating system, the RAS. And basically, Michelle, you probably remember this. Connor, you're probably a little too young. There used to be this commercial in the 70s and 80s, the Tootsie Roll commercial, and all this kids. Do you remember it, Michelle? Like,
I remember that.
Right. Okay. So, get on YouTube if you've never seen this. And basically, it's a kid, and all he sees is Tootsie Rolls. And so, in essence, that's what the reticular activating system does in our brains, is that it brings into our awareness that which we're focusing on. Another example of this is, let's say tomorrow, Connor, you go out and you buy a white Prius. And because Connor he wants a white Prius, right? And so all of a sudden now when Connor's driving around, and he's going to start noticing all these Prii. Is that the plural of Prius? Prii? I don't know. But you'll start noticing that car more. It's not that there's all of a sudden that there's an abundance of that particular car on the road, but your brain is in tune with it. So when we use intentionality, when we start focusing, there are neurobiological mechanisms behind the scenes working overdrive for us to help bring our awareness to things that could be helpful to us. And so
let's spend some time talking about this, because I think that it is this topic in itself we could spend an entire month on, and just talking about this topic. And I think that there is so much opportunity for somebody who has been on this quest to find resources, optimal resources on the planet. You think about it, for the last 20 years, I have been focused on providing resources and tools to North America's largest women's conference. And this is my jam. This is my group. And products and resources that are from trusted advisors we don't want to be sold to. And so think about this skill set, is being able to go ahead and get so clear that you know exactly the individual that you want to work with, to the types of products that you want as part of your outreach.
Yes.
But you are not only aware of what's coming in to your playground, but you are actually pulling it into your playground. And there's science behind this that shows that you absolutely have this ability to do this. And we're proof of that.
No question. No question.
Why is it so hard why is that so difficult for people, especially on the scientific side, to just really grovel with? And I see now more than ever as people are getting it.
I think there's a couple things that play into it. Scientists don't like things that they can't 100% explain. And there is, even though, as we talked about a few minutes ago, the quantum physicists are starting to figure this stuff out, the mainstream science community doesn't necessarily buy into this, because then it's like it's this other essence, like we and there is a really interesting book that written called The God Particle, which quantifies God, and they found parts in our brain that are like the prayer part of our brain that are specifically associated with prayerful intention. So like we're getting there, but I think that this is a concept that traditionally falls into faith and not science, right? Like, dear God, please let me overcome this illness. That's not science. That's 100% faith. And so it requires a mindset shift, a paradigm shift, really on a global scale from a consciousness standpoint, to fully, move. And again, I think we will over time continue to see that spirituality and science are just two sides of a different coin. I look at like Chinese medicine as a really good example of this. People have been doing acupuncture. Acupuncture was one of the things that transformed my life after my car accident. Months and months of rehab and physical therapy and all these things. And still, I couldn't even turn around to reach my seatbelt in my car. Couldn't do it. But after 6 weeks of acupuncture, and I was skeptical, I didn't believe in it. And I went, and the guy was like, okay, I'm going to stick needles here, here, here. And he was like a ninja. And it's like, oh my God, I feel better. And I didn't expect it to work, which is also interesting, because mindset has a lot to do with it. And so, for me, I was like, okay, so here's something that's been around for 3,000 years. And they talk about chi and all of and meridians and energy and all these different things. We are just we're closed-minded. Western medicine, Western society, if we didn't come up with the idea, we don't like it. It's true. That's just kind of the way that we're wired over here.
And if we can't tie a direct revenue stream to it,
indeed,
we're not on board as well.
Right. And that's been
frightening. I think about how much has never made it to the shelves, because
what would have happened? Imagine what our world would have been like if the Rockefellers and those people in that era didn't shut down Nikola Tesla, who was really on the verge of creating free energy, wireless energy. We're all like excited about our wireless chargers for our cell phones. 100 years ago, Nikola Tesla was lighting up a village using broadcast energy, and it was shut down. Why? Because unlike electricity, you can't meter it. You can't meter something that's just distributed for free. So like imagine, he probably would have had cars running on Wi-Fi, like basically like you'd have Wi-Fi emitters in these big buildings and cities. Cars would drive for free. Lights would be free. I mean, imagine what we could have brought to the world. And so, yes, so you have skepticism, and then you have greed. And I do feel as a society, we're moving towards a place where, it's not the age of the Aquarius like in hair necessarily quite yet, but I think people are awakening. Or is it, right? Maybe it is. I don't know. I do think that there are large communities of people that are really seeing that greed is bad. I was privileged. You mentioned Elon Musk's comment earlier on the show. I had a gentleman on my podcast about 1.5 years ago by the name of David Osborne. And he's part of an organization called GoBuntons. He's an amazing guy. He self-made and got into real estate and went from zero to $300 million, his net worth. And what he told me was, I spent the first X years of my life making $300 million. And now I'm going to spend the rest of my life giving it away. And I think we need more people like David sharing examples like that into the world, because, you can't, we don't need everything. Like how much money do we really need? Or like, and what I think coronavirus has done for a lot of people too, is they start realizing what's really important. What do I really need to spend money on? And people are getting by on much less than they ever have, at least probably since the Depression. And it's just another example of when you strip away the nonsense. A lot of that, the commercials for a November to remember because you got to buy your spouse the Lexus with the bow on. I'm not hating on Lexus, but it's just top of mind. It's an example. But, when we focus on what really matters, we don't need all that stuff.
I think too, not only do we don't need it, I don't think we want it. It's confusion, it's chaos, it's noise. And I think it really detracts us from really going after what it is that we truly want.
Indeed. It's, and what I really like, again, like David, you can have a ridiculous financial goal, but make sure that at the back end of the goal, you want to use all that money towards making the world a better place. And we all have that potential. Like we all can in some way give back. We all can better our loved ones and ourselves and have that balance. We don't have to live a life doing that corporate job, getting burned out. Oh my God, I get a week's vacation. No,
I had
ridiculous.
a, I had a situation today where I was not experiencing 100% joy, and I'm getting really good at it though. Like I can be so aware of my environment that does cause stress, that does cause, and that's what I was told. It was the diagnosis came from 100% stress and environment. And when I heard that, I thought, okay, this is great because I can do something about this. I can focus my energy on creating that joy in my life. And so today, I was not having joy, and I just made the decision that I'm not going to continue in this fashion. This is not how I want this to be structured. And I then said what I needed to happen. And because I was coming from a place of abundance and how this can actively help everybody that's involved, myself included, um, all of a sudden the deal got back right on track.
Mm.
It made complete sense. It started moving forward. And in fact, I even told my husband, I just said, I used to make decisions that were not in support of the most optimal situation for myself. I made it anticipating or thinking what would be what someone else needs, or making someone else happy, or being responsible for their happiness, which we know, we never can be. It's really up until the point of when we are truly owning that responsibility for ourselves that we really can sit back, open up to the field, and experience all that life has to offer. And I keep catching myself saying, I'm still thinking it's crazy the stuff that is unfolding. It's so awesome to the point where I never want to live. I don't want to live not like this.
Once you've had a taste,
Yeah.
it's very hard to go back to a world of rules and negativity. It's just different. It's just different. So
Did you find that the people that you hung out with, you started changing folks that
a
you hung?
100%, 100%. I have kept probably three people from high school, and I had a lot, and I got rid of them all, and nicely. And I want to say something about that too. As you start going through this journey, and you're going to realize, a lot of times these people that aren't right for you energetically, they don't know. It's not that they're intentionally trying. Some are. There are those that are just toxic, and you got to get rid of them no matter what. But there are those that don't know that they are an impediment to your success, and you just got to kind of let them down gently. Or and plus, when you just stop calling people, they eventually stop calling you, and so you can be really nice about it. But yeah, I mean, I have transitioned many of my relationships, and now it's funny. Like a few weeks ago, I hope none of them are hearing this. we had this there's this app, and I think it's called House Party, where you can download it and do like games and stuff. And so it was a couple people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like it was a few people who we were friends with through my kids' school, and they wanted to do this, and it was like trivia games and whatever. And I just got bored, and I just told my wife, I said, I'm logging off, and she's like, why? I said, I'm gonna go back to work. And she said, why? I said, because work is way more fun than playing trivia with you guys. And they were all like, oh, but it's again, like when you're doing something you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. It's just a true labor of love. And, I joke a little bit, but it is interesting. Right. And the other thing that's pretty interesting too, that if you're on an entrepreneurial journey, if you're on this journey of self-discovery, what often happens is you start this journey before your partner does. And
Mm.
so then what happens is you start to realize these changes and you're different, but they're exactly the same. And you can't then shove a Dale Carnegie book down their throat and said, it's time for you to start. You can't do that. So we all come to this journey kind of on our own time and when we're ready to. And for some people, it takes years and years to get there. And some people just, they dive head straight in for whatever reason, whether they're just really motivated to change or they had a horrible experience and they don't want to go through it again. Um, you just have to kind of meet people where they're at, but also give yourself the space to safely grow and grow at your own pace. And it's a balance. It's definitely a balance. I mean, I spend much more of my time and energy now. It's interesting, like on my Facebook, I'm not friends on Facebook with anybody that I actually know in person. Like, I'm not even friends with my family or my wife or my sibling. Like,
It actually adds a little stress because in order for me to add people, I have to delete people.
right, because you're at that limit. I think I requested you and it said you were
I
at
have
the
like
limit.
150,000.
So
I'm just like,
yeah, so whatever the number is, I don't know.
yeah,
But and I really just spend my free time calling up my buddies from these different communities that are just people that are trying to do awesome things, and it's just so uplifting. But it's kind of weird, and I remember in a mastermind sharing with a friend of mine that it's kind of like being Superman, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way at all, but like when you're around your wellness team family, when you're around these people that resonate at a level similar to you, you're Superman. You are living your fullest self. You are empowered. You're fired up. And then when you have to come back into the regular world of carpooling and doing these things, then you're buttoning up that shirt and your Clark Kent, and you're kind of hiding a bit of who you are from the world. And it is and honestly, like all of our friends here, like in the Atlanta community that we occasionally see, they don't get me, and it's okay. They don't have to, but they're just like, like they were all freaking out about this coronavirus, and there's reason to. I'm not being ignorant to its danger, but they were complaining at the end of March, and I said, guys, I don't mean to be disrespectful. March was the best year of my life. What? That's impossible. And April was better than March. And um, the that mindset is something that you just don't get right away. You get it by going through this, baptism by fire of self-discovery and figuring out who do you want to be.
yeah.
And,
It's like do you find too it's like a muscle that you have to work every single day because you do have those glimpses of times where you just completely forget. Like you
even, yeah, I mean, and I felt really good about this because I was talking to a mentor of mine who's way more famous and successful than most people I've ever known. And I said, does that scarcity mindset ever pop in now and again? Like, something will just derail your day, and like, because it happens to me. And then I have to work to be like, no, let's move back to abundance. But yes, of course, we all can get there. But again, I think the difference is that if you have people around you that are like, yeah, you know what, this is a speed bump. We got you, get back up. We believe in you. That is totally different than having a whole bunch of haters saying, see, I told you so. You were stupid to try this in the first place. And so that's the difference, I think.
I had somebody in high school, in fact, a group of folks that I went to high school with, my very first boyfriend and a group reached out and said, "Can we come visit you? Can we come see you?" And so that's going to be funny and fun. And uh, but what I think is so fascinating is that we're at a place where it really doesn't matter what comes along your way, that you get to truly decide what that response is going to be. And so that's where it's like the days of having an overreaction or not showing up in love for myself are becoming far and few. And then there are some of those days where you just have like an out of, you cry, you're upset, and you know why. You're just
Hmm.
wanting to release it. and kind of give it up. But I think it's going to be just interesting on recognizing that, because we know that we are responsible for this co-creation, that we're also responsible for our response.
Yeah. There's when I used to run group therapy at a forensic psych hospital, I used to teach, these skills and cognitive behavior therapy. And one of the tenets of that is this concept of an internal versus an external locus of control. And I used to illustrate this in my horrible handwriting on a whiteboard by drawing a little dot in a circle, and that dot is you. And then there's this kind of inner circle, and that is everything that you can control. You can control how you choose to treat people. You can control how you react to stress. You can control, when your kid, takes Sharpie marker to, the white fabric couch. You can control all that stuff. And then there's the outer circle. That's the weather. That's, the economy. That's, when North Korea gets angry, stuff that we can't control. Somebody with an internal locus of control understands that they can't control necessarily how others are going to act, but they can control their reaction to it and the way they respond to the world and that's where you want to be. Somebody with an external locus of control is the person that says, why am I being punished? Why do these things? Right. And so, it's important to strive for that internal locus of control because life, there are challenges. People get sick. There are, tragic accidents, like with your partner, like things, life does get thrown at us sometimes. But how we react to that is so very, very important, especially now with what's going on in the world.
Like, do you believe in chance? Do you think things just happen? Do you think that, like, when
Now we're really getting into it, aren't we? Yeah. Okay.
it only took me 34 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I knew we were here. I knew we were going to land here eventually.
Are you that specific in your intentions? Like, think about the conversation we had yesterday where I talked about meeting you
Yeah.
and how I was so specific. I mean, I'm not normally that specific. I want a psychologist, PhD, that has a background with assessments.
I think in that instance, I mean, that was, if anyone would argue a divine plan, I would say Exhibit A, Richard and Michelle, because that was just it really was one of the craziest experiences that I've ever had. And exactly, I mean, I was exactly what you were needing, and you were exactly what I was needing, and here we are, and it's pretty amazing. So I think about destiny like this. And this is just my opinion. This is not science. This is just my personal belief. I believe that, there's a law of attraction, but I don't think you can just close your eyes and say, tomorrow I want to be, my ideal weight and have love. And like, I don't think it works that way. And Hal Elrod, who is an amazing person, described it once on my show as the law of action and attraction. So I think we have opportunities that are presented in front of us. It kind of like what's behind door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. And it's up to us to have the courage and the commitment to open that door and walk through. What would have happened if I chose not to, listen to JV and talk to you? I didn't have to. We didn't have to have that conversation. I could have gone and watched cartoons, right? I mean, like, but
those video games you talked about.
That's right. That's right. So we have opportunities presented in front of us, and do we do them? And then we also have these moments like that where we have to really kind of decide, how bad do we really want this? Anybody who's been through graduate school has had that moment at least once. Because it's just so hard to get a doctoral level degree or the boards exams, these things. I mean, I remember when I was studying for my boards, I was working full time in my residency. I had a newborn, and I was doing 1,000 practice questions a day at night. and you push yourself because it matters to you. And I think that's something that's also important, and that you'll discover is when you find that thing that you're so passionate about, when you're in one of those moments, like you want to give up moment. I actually had one a couple weeks ago. I didn't tell you this. So
Really?
when I was
Oh my gosh, you got it. Now I want to know all
yeah,
the
so
details.
um, as you know, I just did a TED talk, and I'm one of the first virtual TED talks because obviously nobody's going to conferences anymore. And so I was recording it. So they gave me a time frame upon which I was going to record it, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist when I'm trying to nail a speech, right? And so about 4 hours of takes, and I finally felt like, bam, like that was it. I nailed it. It was perfect. What a relief. And I go and I put on the headsets and I go to watch it, and the audio is totally out of sync and garbled, and the video stuttering. And I was just so defeated because I knew I had to do it again. And I was supposed to do family pictures, like because we in front of the house with the dog, like everything was planned. And I told my wife, no worries, I'll be done in plenty of time. And there was a part, I was sitting there. I remember just sitting there, like with my head in my hands, like, my God, like I have to do this all over again. And I said to myself, this is one of the most important things that I'm ever going to do. This is going to lead to phenomenal opportunities to forward
God,
my
it just
name,
gave me chills.
and it was kind of like, Rocky, right? Like I was getting up at the 9 count. And again, it may sound silly. Oh, I just had to record a speech. But when, when you're in one of those moments and you recognize like, this is what I'm meant to be doing, you just get back up there. And then, not long after I nailed it, what was even better, I think, than the last version. And so that's the final version that's going off to Ted's website, which is really cool. But, if you don't have that passion for what you're doing, when you're faced with one of those moments, you're much likely to just roll over and give up. And that's why knowing what matters to you, what drives you, your values, your passions, those things that are critical to you, if you don't know that, you're kind of adrift at sea. And it's fine when the waters are calm, but when there's a storm, if you don't have your bearings, you're screwed.
Well, I think this segues beautifully into this next half of the discussion, and that is around why somebody would actually do an assessment.
Hmm.
And it's fascinating too how many people initially, even the word assessment, they clam up.
Hmm.
They don't want anybody poking around, in any part of their business. And I think it's interesting when you can have this roadmap that's a shortcut to give you those needs, those wants that maybe because you're so close to the situation, you can't really figure it out. So why would somebody want to first of all take an assessment? I mean, if given the opportunity and to go through something, why would they want to do it?
It's interesting. It's a great question, Michelle. Traditionally, assessments have really only been used for one of two things: to find something medically wrong with you. The very first set of assessments actually were developed by the Army. It was called the Army Alpha and the Army Beta. And basically, what they would do is they would give these to people based on how they perceived, honestly, and this is terrible, but if they thought somebody was stupid, they gave them one. If they thought they had officer potential, they give them another. But it was really just to kind of figure out how to funnel people into different roles in the military. As the assessment industry grew, it really became either a diagnostic tool to find out something wrong with you, or it was a tool used by corporations to fire people. There really wasn't much in between in the early days of the assessment world, in the old wild west, so to speak. And in some respects, as I spoke to yesterday, it hasn't changed a whole lot. As a scientist, what I will say to anybody listening to this is there is power in numbers, and there is power in taking something, because none of us are objective about ourselves. We're really not. We're oftentimes, I've seen many people, just as a psychologist, that they are too hard on themselves in terms of their deficits and not loving themselves enough, not recognizing their gifts a lot, or the other way, they're narcissists and they think that they're amazing at everything when really they're not. And so,
You see more of the latter, or you see more of the initial, don't you? I mean, I think that's what I'm finding is people really are hard on themselves.
yes. Now, I will say this, and I don't want to derail the conversation because it's an important question you asked. But my doctoral dissertation was on the impact on personality functioning that social media has, and there are trends. There, maybe that's for a third episode. there are trends that suggest, particularly in younger generations, that we are gradually, consistently, and steadily seeing an increase of narcissistic traits in people that use social media. And so, you know, you're seeing more of that. On the other hand, narcissists are presenting clinically for similar reasons. True narcissists are rare. Like the real narcissist who, there's a fine line between narcissism and sociopathy, but you're talking about maybe base rates of like 3%, more prevalent in males, obviously, more prevalent in the West and the East, and the collectivist societies don't tend to have this as much. But what used to happen is that a narcissist would go to his therapist because the wife would leave a note that said, "You're just an unbearable jerk and I can't stand to be with you." Or the boss would fire them or something would happen. Now, though, what narcissists are able to do is anybody who has a dissenting opinion, they unfriend and unfollow, and then they get enough people, they'll get a few likes, which means that they get this support of their position, so they must be right. And so it's a whole other discussion. I'm going to circle back to what you asked me because I don't want to ruin the discussion. But what's really good about assessments is because we're all, as I said, we're all biased about ourselves, for better or worse. When you're able to compare yourself to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who are your age, gender, level of education, career, and compare how you're doing to what they're doing, then you're really able to say, okay, so you know what? Maybe I am really bad at, managing my finances, or maybe I am not so good at being compassionate as I thought that I was. And then the data staring you in the face. It's not the opinion of a therapist. It's not your mother-in-law telling you to be, smarter with your money. It's science. It's algorithmically driven data. And so, and data is data. Data doesn't have an agenda. Data isn't trying to hurt your feelings or spare your feelings. Data is data. And so once you have that data, then it's awesome because you can really look at it and say, okay, with Powers, with our assessment, we were very clear, as is what we do with all of our instruments. I wanted people to be able to have their roadmap and to know what are these areas they need to work on, but know where they kick butt, And so when you let me know and you sent me that little video on the phone, and you were all fired up because like it described you perfectly, like passion, empathy, like these are Michelle Patterson like acronyms, right? And they're you, and so that's where assessment can be really powerful. And so we're doing some really cool stuff with it. What we're going to be doing later this year, I'll tease it. It's not ready yet, but we've been working for a couple of years on this part of the algorithm, to where families, husbands and wives, can take it
I love that.
and then be able to take their data and
Yes.
have the algorithm say, well, here, this is something you need to know about the other person. We have a really amazing tool that also we've developed forever, and it's just about ready to launch for student athletes to help them reach peak performance. And so we actually are able to, if you have a kid, and it's delineated by gender, age, and sport, so we have a gazillion sports, and we've done all the research on this. And so it's really cool because it's not only going to pull out for your kid their strengths and weaknesses, but it's also going to tell what kind of coach is best for them. Like, what is the coaching language? What style of coaching really helps bring the best out of the kid, as well as what kind of coaching language is going to destroy and break down that kid. And so we're also, integrating that with the powers that you took so that you as a parent can really understand how to best connect with the kid. It's just and this is the stuff I sit up at night in the shower, like I get all these ideas, and then it's like, oh my God. And then like my partner, I make him crazy because I'll send him a message at 2:30 in the morning and be like, I've got this idea. and but then we birth it into reality. And that's the coolest thing. That's
I
the
love the
coolest thing.
idea of the just families. I look
Hmm.
at, my family, I look at what you and I have shared and just really getting through life together.
Yeah.
Eric and I are 25 years, together, 23 years married, and it's been our best work, truly.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
My
and
my I love that, and I'm not quite, I don't quite have as many years as you and Eric do, where we just did 10, but um I
tense.
am 10's a lot. And honestly, like compared to, yeah, I used to hear all these people talk about how hard marriage is. In my experience, it hasn't been. We've had challenges, like when our son almost died, and everything that the fallout from that, when he was really little, and like that was horrible, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But we were united,
Yeah.
like we,
Had somebody to go through it.
yeah, and so I when I hear people say, that at the Friday night, like this is a thing. Nobody goes to the movies anymore, of course, but when movies were a thing, it was always like this massive, like negotiating the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like, he wants to see the, Tom Cruise's whatever, and she wants to see, Hearts of Love or something. And like, how do you meet in the middle? I can honestly say in my marriage, I haven't had a lot of that. Like we really,
Were you guys
but
friends before?
no, in fact, we met online. Like it was through an online dating service, and she was the third person I went on a date with through that. I was in my first year of graduate school, and I didn't like bars, and I don't like the game, where you have to get somebody's number and then wait 3 days to call them back because you're desperate if you call them back at 2 days. Like I don't have time for that crap. Like I'm in year one of the weeder year of my doctoral program, which was hell. And I just really, so what I did almost, it's funny now that I put this in the frame of assessments. I created on my profile, my dating profile, a quiz with a numerical system where girls
Stop,
could earn points
stop.
based. So like if you like college football, plus 25
What?
points. If you have a cat or like cats, you're negative 2,000 because I'm allergic. Don't contact me. Like all these things. And actually, my wife actually was not the highest score. She was the third highest score, or second, something like that. And what's also really interesting too is, you go back to intention. She blew me off a little bit at first. We connected,
I love
and
her.
we connected, and I started chatting with her on, this is again to kind of show how long ago this was, AOL Instant Messenger, the little yellow dude, right? And so we're chatting, and then I wanted to have a date, and pretty cool. She was being a little cool about it. And then she didn't respond to my, I sent another email, not right away, but, like I had some exams, and then I sent her another email. I didn't hear anything. And I was pissed because I was like, what's wrong? Why is this happening? And so I decided though, because there was actually, then I was talking to this other girl who reached out to me, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try this girl one more time because I just, like something about her, I just don't want to. And then she responded, and we had our first date, and it was a Sunday, and everything was closed in the city because it was Easter Sunday. We're Jewish, obviously, right? And so the only thing open was Waffle House, and so we're like big spender, right? And so 4 hours, just conversation, beautiful,
Oh,
amazing,
did you
perfect
know
conversation.
right away? Like, could you feel it in your gut? Like, that's the one.
I bought that ring pretty quickly. Pretty quickly. Not like, within the first 3 weeks, but like within a few months, I was sure. And what was really cool about her was that we had a lot of stuff in common, but she's comfortable enough as an individual to let me do my own thing. There's stuff I like that she has no interest in, and vice versa. And that's cool. Like there's stuff that we have, and that's how it should be. Like you should still be yourself. Like you should still retain elements of individuality when you're in a relationship, but there's just awesome stuff you guys do together. So yeah, I'm very grateful. Like she's an amazing wife, an amazing mom. I couldn't have picked a better partner to go through this journey with, and just incredibly grateful to her.
Well, so Eric, when I met him, he was on a date. I was on a date. That was when payphones were happening. And so we were canceling our date. But in fact, I was with a whole bunch of people from the office and we went for a going away party. But I told everybody, I met the man I'm going to marry. And literally within 15 minutes, I was that exact. I've always had that response to my gut, my intuition. And I was like, that's the guy to marry. And he felt it too. I mean, he definitely felt it too. So we've got Laura, who's out there. We've got a comment coming back that 2 years ago, we paid over $8,000 for psychological assessments for my then 12-year-old. It confirmed my assumptions of his ADHD, but it also confirmed other findings that helped us understand him to help him in other areas. So thank you, Laura, for that information. It's so hard too, is when, again, you're working with a child who can't express what his needs are.
Right.
You can have a test that goes in and gives you, 35 pages that come back?
Well, there's what Laura described, and thank you for the comment, Laura, because it's awesome. I mean, that's the work that I used to do as a psychologist. I was I did forensic neuropsychology, and a lot of my evaluations were kids with autism or, kids who had gone through, oncology, like baseline testing before they'd go into cancer treatment to see what their brains would be like on the back end and what would their deficits be and things like that. So it is important. But again, like that's awesome, Laura, that you were able to have access to that for your family. But one of the reasons why I created Your Success Insights is I don't want families to have to spend $8,000. I want them to spend 50. So, that's why I created the tools the way that I did. Now, again, if you think your kid has autism or
You would love this
something,
woman, by the way. She's a total rock star, mama bear, runs a massive, awesome company that's out there, and actually does rope courses. I mean, does this whole entire thing. And she's somebody I definitely want you to meet. That's part of our Real Share community. But I'd love to go ahead and have her take the assessment. One of the things that I'm going to do, Richard, is pull together 20 of my friends that I've been in life with and do this protocol, and let's see what happens, and put them through not only the assessment, but also have the third party testimonials, as well as then make the connection with Made with Love directory and put those pieces together. And so that's something I absolutely want as this next chapter.
well, that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think, much like Rose said yesterday and what you said, I really haven't had a person who's taken this that has expressed, oh, this doesn't sound like me. Like everybody's like, yeah, that's me. But then they also, a lot of times people also say, yeah, but you know what? I also learned some stuff about myself I didn't really know. And, again,
it's that person that tells you what you don't want to hear too.
Right. So I want to be very clear that, this is, if somebody is suffering, severe depression or, PTSD or God forbid, schizophrenia, something like that, this assessment is not for you. You really need to go see a clinical psychologist in a setting to where you can get, personality assessments and tools that are derived for mental health purposes, people with severe mental illness. I don't want the misconception that this is a panacea no matter what's going on in your world. What this is something that for working moms and dads who are struggling to have that balance in their life, maybe don't really have that sense of meaning, or even if they know or don't know that they have this sense of meaning, to look at where you stand on 21 dimensions empirically associated with success in life, and then be able to say, okay, this is something where I'm doing great. This is an area where I could be doing better. And then the beautiful thing about the real share and made with love is, the funny thing is, I was already starting to do what you're doing in a different way. Like what we have are premier content partners, to where people with phenomenal, industry leaders and influencers with expertise in certain areas, we were going to put people into their ecosystems, but you've done it, you've centralized it. So that's the difference between what I was starting to do and what you're doing, is you've centralized that repository. And then the other thing that we do through Powers, and I'm super proud of this because I think, again, this is unique for an assessment company, is once we've run your algorithm, then we're able to send you custom emails like, hey, like this isn't a podcast episode with a guest on a show that maybe you should really listen to because it will help you in the area where you're struggling with, or an author. And like you, like we vet everybody's a trusted partner. Like, we never sell anybody's information through. The choice to click is always up to the person, but we want to just continue providing value and resources to help people on their journey, whether they ever buy another Powers from us or not. That's not the point. The point is, we're with you. We've got your back. So if you're that person who's listening to this thinking, I want to try this journey, but I'm scared and I don't think I have people in your life that are supporting me, we're doing so digitally. And based on your test results, we're going to be sending you these little pick-me-ups, over the course of weeks and months, with things that'll help you address where you've been. And then it's fun because now you start getting into these things that excite you. You start finding these improvements in your lives. I mean, I have friends who have, gone through similar things. They were like they've been our guinea pigs with the Powers way back when. And I'm like, hey, like your relationship sucks with your wife. And, and he's like, what? How dare you? And I'm like, no, you guys are not communicating. You're not doing X, Y, Z. And I said, here's a friend of mine, and she's been on my show, and she's amazing at helping couples improve their relationships. And they went through her very expensive course, but now like their marriage is different. And again, like I'm working very hard to find resources that are affordable, that are turnkey, that can help people achieve these results, because not everybody, look, we're very lucky. And if you or I needed to go out and get something, we could probably get it. But I wanted to level the playing field and just be very disruptive in this assessment space and create things that would help everybody, no matter whether they could afford it or not. And so, or whether it was reasonably affordable is what I should say. So,
Well, I'm going to put it on, and I knew you would say yes to me. So I was like, I'm so excited. I was texting you, but having it be, I was thinking 20 people, and do it first come, first serve, and do it 6 weeks, and pick in each of the 5 to thrive areas. So career, physical, financial, social, community.
mhm.
And you would then put together what you wanted to improve on, change, really develop in that particular channel, that particular area, with the 5 to thrive.
It's fun.
And yeah, so I was going to go ahead and send it out tomorrow. And I know, we had 18,000 people sign up to be a speaker at my conference. So I thought I'd go ahead and just post it on my global, the Real Share global family. And for the first 20 people that want to do it, and we'll just do it collectively together. You want to lose, 5 pounds, you want to take up meditation, you want to, whatever it is, you can absolutely do that. And then I thought what we could do is do once a week on the show, we'll go ahead and we'll have people come together and they can ask questions. We can talk about our assessment. We can talk about where we're struggling, maybe something that's, pulling us off track on being able to stay on point, and have you part of that show if
That'd be
you're
fun.
for it. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun.
You'll meet Laura too. Like I said, I only run with rock stars.
I know this about you. Yes.
I told people I'm not for everybody. I come with a warning label. After 20 minutes of talking with me, you're signed up for a committee. You're doing some type of project. And so, Laura Brugg, I'm going to go ahead and put you on first. So I'll actually put her on, and I know my friend Liz Schumahorn, she wants to do it as well. So we'll go ahead and put this list together and have you back on, Richard, if you're up for it next Monday. And
Next Monday. Wow. Okay. Let me put it in my calendar.
you're my you're my second person now. That's well, no, you're my first person that's going to be back for third show. That's
You
never.
know, I remember this skit on Saturday Night Live, and it was like Steve Martin and Justin Timberlake, and like the 5 Time Club, like got these smoking jackets, and they got this special lounge. So I'm happy to be setting records with you here. So I've
We're
got
gonna
you
have
in.
so much fun. I
Yeah,
know.
this
We'll just go back and forth. You pick what you want to do. We'll just start checking off the list, our bucket list, what we want to have happen. And now we're going to actually rock it out. I end all of my shows dancing, as you know, because you've been on it before. And thank you so much